Welcome to Crack Defense. So, this is our second chapter. Here we'll discuss atoms and molecules. Uh, I hope you have watched the last lesson. If you haven't, do watch it. So, here we'll first focus on the atomic model, the entire theory timeline, the scientists who have worked, what they have developed. Okay, and this can be a question, this can be a 1 marks question. Okay, they can ask you that they can ask they can have a question that protons are developed by which scientist. Then they can give you an option: Thomson, Rutherford, Bose, Chadwick. Okay, and then you have to mark your answer. So after this class, just try to give the answer of this question. Okay, so I'll start with our first scientist, that is Democritus. So, uh, like today, you all have a knowledge about what solids are. Okay, you know what liquids are. You know we have atoms, we have molecules. Okay, you know that atoms are surrounding a proton. Atoms are surrounding the nucleus. Okay, so you know all these things. But initially, very initially, people didn't had any idea about this. So scientists, they were very curious to know um, about all these things. So they came up with certain experiments, they came up with their own theories, which we will study. So one day what happened, that the Democritus was sitting and he was cutting an apple. Okay, and he found that he is cutting it. So he first had 4 pieces, then he further uh, cut down that into 8 pieces. Further, he was just cutting it, and he wanted to reach a stage where he cannot further cut that piece of apple. Okay, so this scientist, he wants to reach a stage where he cannot further cut the apple. Okay, so the uncuttable or the undivided stage, he wanted to reach that stage. So he compared this with the study of atoms also. So what he said, that atoms are the smallest particles which cannot be further cut down into pieces. Okay, so the smallest uh, or the uncuttable particle is called the atom. So Democritus, he discovered atom. He said that you cannot further cut atom. So atoms are tiny and individual particles. So this was said by Democritus. But because he didn't had any evidence, his theory was not approved. Okay, so his theory was rejected because he didn't had any evidence. Now we have scientists. The next scientists, all these scientists, they have discovered something and they have also given the evidence also. So first we'll study about Dalton. Okay, so Dalton, he created the very first atomic theory. Okay, and he said that atoms combine in definite proportion. Okay, he said that atoms are individual particles, you cannot further break these particles, and he also has given the evidence also. Okay, so therefore his theory was approved. So Dalton viewed atoms as tiny particles, and he also gave his theory that is called atomic theory. Okay, so atomic theory is given by Dalton. uh, he was the first scientist who gave an evidence-based theory. And after this we have Thomson. So Thomson, he did the cathode ray experiment where he has seen the response of a magnetic field, and with that he discovered the negatively charged particles. Okay, he discovered the negatively charged particles. His model is also called as Reisenbund model. Okay, and he said that negative charges are dispersed all around. Okay, and he also said that there must be some positive charge also, but for positive charge he didn't had any theory. Okay, so uh, till his time only electrons were discovered, only negative charge particles were developed. Okay, electrons also, it was not developed. He only said that negative charge exists. Okay, so his model was somewhat like this, where he said that negative charges are scattered all around. So this was said by Thomson. Then after Thomson we have our next scientist, and he is Rutherford. Okay, so Rutherford, he did the famous gold foil experiment. So you all must have studied about the gold foil experiment. So here he discovered positively charged particles. So what was the experiment? In his experiment, he passed alpha particles, and he has seen the response, okay, the passage of the negatively charged particles, the alpha particles. So what he absorbed that most of the alpha particles, they pass straight through the foil, okay, and some of the uh, particles, they return back with an angle of 90 degree, and some particles return back making an angle of 45 degree, okay, and that was happening only in a very small space, okay, only in a very small space. So what he concluded that negative charge is spread all around, and then in the center we have positive charge, okay. So this was his experiment. So what Rutherford discovered protons, and he said we have nucleus also, okay. So this was developed by Rutherford. So he showed that atoms have positive charge at the center, and mostly we have empty spaces. And why empty spaces? Because when he was passing alpha particles, it was passing directly through the foil, okay, it was not coming back. Only few particles were there which were coming back. So this was his study. But here a major question which arise, and people didn't had the answer of that, was how this is possible, how electrons are not getting into the protons, okay, because we all know that protons and electrons, positive and negative charges, they combine, okay. So how this negative charge is not getting into the positive charge? So this was the very big question which came during his time. So uh, next there came a scientist, Bohr. Okay, so he clarified that, and he said that electrons are not present anywhere, but they are present in a certain fixed orbit. Okay, and that is called as energy levels. So he told that there are different energy levels in which electrons are present, and that is the reason why they are not getting into the proton. Okay, so So he came up with the answer of why does negative and positive charges don't repel each other. Okay, so that is what is written here, that he improved on Rutherford model. Okay, so Rutherford model, they said he said that we have nucleus, we have positive charge, we have negative charge, but Rutherford didn't talk about the energy levels. But Bose, he improved this, and he said that we have energy levels, and in those energy levels electrons are present. Now there comes another scientist, Chadwick, and he discovered neutrons. So neutrons were discovered very lately, and this was discovered by Chadwick. So here it is written that working with Rutherford, he discovered particles with no charge, and these particles are called as neutrons. Okay, so electrons carry negative charge, protons carry positive charge, and neutrons carry no charge. So neutrons was discovered by Chadwick, and then next we have this our modern periodic table, our modern science. So this was very lately discovered. So we will now further study about atoms in detail. So this was a basic timeline of how which scientists have developed what, and this can be a question. So if I brief it to you, so Democritus, so he came up, he said that atoms are tiny particles, but he didn't had any evidence. Then Dalton came, okay, and Dalton said atoms combine in definite proportion. He said we have atom. He came up with atomic theory, okay. So atomic theory was discovered by Dalton. Then we have Thomson, and Thomson, he did cathode ray experiment through which he discovered negative charge. Okay, negatively charged particles called electrons. So electrons was discovered by Thomson. Rutherford, he discovered positive charge. Chadwick, he discovered negative charge. Bose, in electrons, he said that they have different energy levels. Okay, so different energy levels for electrons was discovered by Bose. Okay, so this was the basic timeline about this thing. So I hope this is clear for you. And now, from the next, the further topics we'll cover in our next class. So this is the part 1. Now in part 2, we'll study in detail about what atoms are, what molecules are, what protons are. Okay. So thank you so much, and all the best.